As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live, when you followed the ways of this world and the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our flesh and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature deserving of wrath, but because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. Ephesians 2, verses 1 through 5. For a great many years, Bible scholars have pondered who would be the Antichrist spoken of in Revelation. They read through scriptures like this, and they miss the real truth. In today's video, I'm going to identify what I humbly believe is the Antichrist in the world today. It's that second line. The ruler of the kingdom of the air, the Spirit, who is now at work in those who are disobedient. Many have alleged it was this leader or that leader, but they have never attempted to ascertain what is the spirit of the Antichrist. That's going to be the real telltale sign. A woman named Lady Jane Grey once said, "Deny the world, defy the devil, despise the flesh, and delight yourself only in the Lord." See, those were the three things that Christ overcame when he was tempted in the wilderness. He overcame the devil, overcame the world, and overcame his own flesh. Well, what do we see out in the world today? We see people chasing after their own flesh. You see, they think by gaining this world, they will gain some type of reward, gain some type of advantage that they don't believe they have now, that they believe someone else has. I've used this image before. It was the knight's code of chivalry and the vows of knighthood. To fear God and maintain his church, to serve the liege lord in valor and faith, protect the weak and defenseless. But the one that I think would make a lot of people scratch their heads, to despise pecuniary reward, meaning financial reward. The entire movement of quote-unquote social justice, no matter whether it was Me Too, no matter whether it's Black Lives Matter, no matter whether it's some perceived persecution of those of a different sexual preference, any of that, it all boils down to pecuniary reward. They see someone else who has more, and they have less, and they think they will achieve justice if they have more money. That's really what it all boils down to, because they can't see themselves as anything other than victims if someone else has more than they do. And that's really what service of the world, service of the flesh is all about. Now, I know this might confuse some people, but there's evidence of this at the very highest levels of the mainstream media if you see it, if you look at it closely enough. I'm sure many of you don't even know who these two people are. Well, we're going to focus on the person on the left. This is Brooke Baldwin. She was, for 13 years, an anchor at CNN. She, in April, announced she was leaving. Many people were very surprised at this. She was one of their lead anchorettes. Well, she did an interview with Ms. Magazine, and she said the reason that she left CNN was because all of the people above her were all men. That's right, at CNN. Now, she didn't claim anyone harassed her, but she did claim that she thought that was a problem and that her journey had to continue for women's rights and shattering the glass ceiling and all this stuff. But she admits in the article, which I'll give you a link to in the first pinned comment, you have to go down to the comment section and find the very first one, the top one, that she got the job knowing this, but she was going to use her time at CNN to create her voice, create her platform, build her brand so that she could continue. So she thought it was okay as long as it advanced her. This was the same network that waggled their condescending little finger at Gretchen Carlson for doing the same thing. Many of you probably remember she was one of the Fox News babes. People thought Fox and CNN were the exact opposite. They were exactly the same. They were exactly the same. She alleged, of course, the issue with Roger Ailes, left, wrote a book, all this kind of stuff. See, this is the key. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what reason you are making the allegation that the world has picked on you. It's an emotional behavior. And achieving success in your mind will cause this incredible conflict. Because once you would become successful, you would then be the thing that everyone else wants to knock off the top of the hill. See, you would have gotten there because of some reason that someone else, some advantage someone else perceives you have that they don't. It doesn't matter whether it's race, doesn't matter whether it's sexuality, doesn't matter whether gender, anything like this. See, here's what Miss Baldwin doesn't get. But I think she might be starting to realize. White, from the South, cisgendered female, married white, from Europe, cisgendered male, fell in love, got married in paradise. She had a great job. He's a super guy. All this fantastic stuff. But yet she still sees herself as a victim of something. Is this how you know you're not dealing with a rational person? They're not in their thinking brain, they're an emotional brain. Now, how does this deal with the rise of Antichrist? Well, this is exactly what Christ said we were to overcome. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, the pride of life, the advancement of self in this world. And anyone promoting the opposite of that is literally Antichrist. If we go back to the initial scripture, preaching here, he says that you were dead in your transgressions and sins, and you used to live that way when you followed the ways of the world and the ruler of the kingdom of the air. But then he also says, so were we. So were we. All of us also lived among them at one time. We gratified our cravings, our fleshly desires, our thoughts. And we were also deserving of wrath. And the only reason we now say that we're saved is because we had mercy granted unto us through Christ. So what would Antichrist be? Antichrist would mean that you don't feel you need forgiven. You don't feel that there's anything wrong with you. In fact, you're better than what the world thinks you are. And you should be promoted in this world and in this life. And you should put all of your efforts towards doing so. And achieving your pecuniary reward. Achieving your acknowledgement as an equal. And service, oh my goodness, service is the worst thing in the world. Why do you think so many restaurants out there are having problems hiring people? It's not because people don't need jobs. It's because people are too proud now to go bus a table, too proud to take an order, too proud to cook for someone else. Because the government will just hand them checks. Because they deserve that. They deserve that free money. They've earned that free money because they've been persecuted for so long. They should have been, when they were working, paid 5 times as much as they actually were. So really, it's their money anyway. This is Antichrist. This is the spirit of Antichrist. See, no matter what level of blessing this woman would have ever achieved in her life. She would still see herself as a victim. Same thing with this woman. Identical. Absolutely identical. They left for the same reason. Different circumstances, but for the same reason. They did not see themselves as blessed. They did not see themselves as lifted up and so lucky and so much more needing to be thankful. No thankfulness in their hearts whatsoever. No gratitude in their hearts whatsoever. I'll give you the link to this article where she talks about how she, Brooke Baldwin, speaking of, came to CNN as a freelancer in 2008. Put this post-it note on a temporary office. And then was lifted up and elevated to this incredibly high position. And now, 13 years later, complaining. Because of the same people that hired her were men. Anchoring 10 plus years, the majority of that time, 2 hours in the afternoon. In that time, the most influential anchors on our network, the highest paid, are men. My bosses, my executives are men. The person who oversees CNN Dayside is a man. And my executive producer for 10 years is a man. And that's what this was all about. Now, I'm not saying that women are the Antichrist. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying this desire for the world, this elevating of the world to a place that's beyond Christ, that we are to be served, our flesh, our desires, our want is to be served. That is the Antichrist. And anything encouraging this, that's how we know. That's how we know. This spirit of the air that's pervading everywhere, that is the Antichrist. Now, we could say that that has been embodied in a great many men throughout history. Whoever says that you're a victim, whoever says that you're entitled to something that because of some bad thing that happened to you, that's what you need to look for. Someone who identifies with the worst, most base desires of the flesh in you and brings that out in you. That's Antichrist. God bless. Have a great Sunday. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you tonight on Twitch.